dust is lying. We're tearing the veil tonight. Red planets screaming under NASA's paint. They color correct the truth till it fades away. Face on Mars stares back with ancient eyes. Pyramids rising where the dead wind cries. Cylinders gleaming in the rover's glare. Stone circles standing like they don't belong there. Brian Corey Dobbs got the footage on lock. John Ward slicing through the pixels non-stop. Sahara Cosmos, Ricardo, Calvario, Jason Huffman, Shaman, 7-Eleven, Alexander Cheskiewicz. We're all in. Mars Disclosure Live, ripping the lies apart tonight. Pyramids on Mars, life in the dirt, ancient cities buried. Feel the hurt. Mars Disclosure Live, truth is burning through the red sky. We expose the history, the nuked out past, potential for life. It's ours at last.
Sponsored by Spores MD for your personal mind-body wellness journey.
All right, greetings humans. We are live on August 9th, Sunday, August 9th at 4 p.m. Eastern for another episode of Mars Disclosure Live. We've got a special guest, Barry DiGregorio, who's going to talk to us about the honeycomb on Mars and some other cool features on Mars, potential signs of life, which we love talking about on this show. Before we introduce him and his work, I'd just like to introduce my panel and also shout out everyone in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. Please hit us up with lots of questions. We got an excellent panel today. Before I do that, though, I'd like to say Sarah Cosmos, one of our panelists, she's no longer going to be on the show anymore, but we thank her so much for all the time she put in with the show. We really appreciate her, and she's going to be watching. She just can't do it anymore in this time slot. Love you, Sarah. Thank you so much for all your help. I just wanted to shout her out quickly. First up, we've got my editor and friend, Alexander Cheskiewicz, author of Deja Vu, Has Everything Already Been? And he's got his own YouTube channel. How's it going today, Oleg? How are you?
Great. I'm really grateful to be here. New guests each episode, meeting such fantastic people on all of this research. So I'm again honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. We also have my other good friend, also known as Shaman 7-Eleven. We've got Jason Huffman in the house, co-host of the Shaman and Philosopher podcast and a delegate of the Institute for Natural Philosophy. Jason, welcome on another Sunday's episode of Mars Disclosure Live.
David, thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to join everybody. Jean, I want to know what happened to the hat. Okay, that was a good look you had going on with the cigarette holder and the hat. Brian, of course, always an honor to be with you. Oleg, good to see you. And Mr. DiGregorio, your specialty is outside of my normal wheelhouse, which happens a lot here on this particular panel. But I'm honored, as always, to meet a fellow independent researcher and to learn from you today. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, buddy. We're glad you're here. We're also excited to have the legendary John Ward, independent Mars researcher and graphic designer. He's brought us countless images to the show, and he's got a few more to show us that we're going to take a look at the end of today's show, so stay tuned for that. Jean, how's it going? What's going on with your channel lately?
Hey, nice to be here. Very well, thanks for asking, Dave. The book that I co-authored with Giuseppe Filotto in Italy, he's an ex-South African. He migrated there about 10 years ago. We co-authored a chapter or two in his latest book. It should be releasing soon. I'll keep you guys posted. Look out for that one. Quite interesting. Otherwise, it's going great. I've got too much work.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for being here, Jean. Always a pleasure. We've also got none of us would be here if it wasn't for him. We're joined by award-winning filmmaker Brian Corey Dobbs, director of Blue Planet Red. This guy fearlessly digs into evidence of ancient Martian life and dramatic catastrophes that changed the planet forever. Bro, how's it going? Pumping out a lot of work. I watched the Honeycomb video the other day. Really good stuff. Thanks so much for everything you're doing.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here. And gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. Today, I consider this live stream today, this is going to be special for a number of different reasons. Number one, I'd like to highlight that I really think this Mars disclosure, is becoming more visible. It's becoming more seen. Jean, I know you just passed 12,000 subscribers on YouTube. We've got people outside of the direct Mars disclosure community who are now paying attention on Twitter. I've started a group chat. There's a few new people getting into the game. Shout out to Kari Sivertsen in Norway. Shout out to Marcus, crazy Swede from Sweden. Shout out to Max. Jean has mentioned Max before. We've got a group chat talking behind the scenes about various things. But this is growing, and it is thanks to this live stream, among many other things, that this whole movement is being taken seriously. Thanks for the comment, Town Noel. So I feel like we're really at the beginning of more widespread acceptance, and I just want to give you guys some special thanks for showing up, for doing this, for Dave for hosting for this, Oleg and Megan for assisting with all of this. You know, Shaman, I know this isn't necessarily your wheelhouse, but dude, I really appreciate you and your interest in all of this.
It connects, bro. It connects. It connects. I know it connects. That's why I've been here watching this whole time, because I know somewhere Mars and humans, fucking, you know what I'm saying? We'll get there.
Yes.
So that's why I'm hanging in here, because I know it connects, and I appreciate all the guys you've been bringing to us to learn from, Brian. Thank you, man.
Any party is incomplete without a shaman, okay? So, and Oleg and I got a chance to do a one-on-one this past week about his book. I finally finished it. It's fantastic. I don't know how he put it together, because it's a comprehensive book about all this megalithic, sites and ancient past that, is I think what brings us mostly all together is that we're interested in our history and what exactly happened and how it's different from what the textbooks say. And Oleg's book really serves as a good introduction to it all. And it's not just the 101. I mean, you saw how thick it is. There's a whole lot in there. It's well researched. It's comprehensive. He's a dot connector. So Oleg, congratulations on the book. As I understand it, you've got more work in the pipeline in that respect, more books in the making and things of that nature. Really professional job. Really happy that you can be part of this. Anyway, I won't belabor the point. Today, Barry, your video looks great. We had Dr. Brandenburg on 2 weeks ago, and all we could get from him was a cell phone connection. So I'm really happy we got a good connection. You're looking great. You're sounding great. And Dave, is it okay if we just now pivot right into Barry's past? Is that okay?
Yeah, I want to learn about trace fossils on Mars. Let's do this.
All right. Before we talk about fossils, I want to remind everybody what Barry's contribution was. Originally, he was somebody like me who took an interest in what the scientists and what the researchers were discovering about Mars. And Barry, I'm going to just give the one-sentence version of this, and you can sort of fill it out a little bit later. But as I understand it, Barry walked into a science museum one time and started looking at all the things about Viking. And he's like, oh, this Viking stuff's pretty interesting. And he was curious about the biology experiments. And as he dug into the details, this was what, back in the 90s, Barry, maybe late 80s and 90s, where things just weren't adding up. They discovered life, but they say they didn't. So long story short, Barry started investigating things for himself. And Dave, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go right into a couple of slides here.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, share screen 2.
Shout out to the chat. We got people watching from all over the world. That's so cool.
Yeah. All right, so slideshow, presenter view. There we go. Hopefully this doesn't disrupt the connection. Everything still looks good. Okay, so long story short, Barry had an extreme interest in the 1976 Viking mission, specifically the biology experiments. And as we all know, we've been talking about this thing called the labeled release experiment designed by the gentleman you see here, Dr. Gale Levin. Of course, Dr. Patricia Ann Stratt was somebody that Gale hired to help adapt. Just want to give a shout out to Dr. Stratt. Adapt it to the Viking, the lander, okay? Long story short, Barry wrote a book, all right? It is a fantastic book. It reads like a movie. It reads like an on-your-seat, and I'm not just saying that because he's here. I really felt this when I read it. And it gives all the detail you could ever possibly want to know about the history of the Viking program, focused mainly on the biology experiments. This is how I learned about most of this stuff that I talked to you guys about is through Barry, okay? I've gotten to know him over the past few years, and Barry is an astrobiologist. You can see here, he got to meet and speak directly with Gale Levin. So as I had these relationships with these scientists, Barry had a direct relationship with Dr. Gale Levin. Dr. Gale Levin is no longer with us, unfortunately, but through Barry's book, this book actually serves as somewhat of a biography for Dr. Gale Levin, but it also talks about all the biology experiments. And in his book was when Dr. Gale Levin, for the first time ever, put his foot down and said, yes, God damn it, my biology experiment found life, and you can't tell me otherwise. So this book came out in the late 90s, I believe. 97, okay? And it is a thrilling read, let me tell you, all right? So anyway, Barry got into this so long ago. He's still working on this stuff. He is one of the OGs, so to speak, of Mars disclosure, whether he knows it or not. All right? And his work did not stop with this book. And what Barry, not only is Barry in his past has been a journalist for various things. He's covered rock bands and got to meet, all sorts of famous people. But he's also he's also written scientific articles, scientific publications, and he has kept his finger on the pulse of anything biology related. So anything you've heard me talk about, more than likely it has come from Barry. So now, aside from being a magnificent reporter and an author, Barry also happens to be an astrobiologist who specializes in the field of ichnology, which is a funky word not many people have heard of, but it has to do it's paleontology, but specifically looking at fossils, trace fossils.
Yeah, evidence of activity in mud of past life.
Okay, so evidence of past activity in mud doesn't sound very sexy. However, when you look, scientists don't often get to do the sexy work. However, what they discover can quite often be some of the most groundbreaking, paradigm-shifting stuff. And in his spare time, mind you, Barry, he's another person like John Ward, Okay? John, in his spare time, finds all these anomalies, looking at rover images. All right? Barry does the same thing, but he's not looking for artifacts and pyramids and such. Barry is looking for evidence of fossils on Mars. And I'm just going to remind you, just a few quick slides, we're not going to spend long on it, of what Barry found. And some of you might have first seen Barry in my movie, and this is me and Barry up in New York on the shoreline where he is showing me. You guys can see this video, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So he's showing me these little squiggly lines because these squiggly lines are confirmed as what we call a trace fossil. It's basically the footprint of a worm, right, that squirmed through there many millions of years ago. And Barry's showing me this on the shoreline because this is within driving distance of his house. I went up there, okay? And what these little, he noticed what these little things look like. He noticed that these things look like these little squiggly lines. You can see here, this was a rover photograph. You see these little squiggles here? It looks like these squiggles that we just saw. So he has an entire book on just these little squiggles being evidence for trace fossils on Mars. Now, not only that, but if we just skip through here, we saw the crinoid. That's not Barry. But Barry also found these connections here. These rocks with holes, okay? This one here is on Earth. This one here is on Mars. And this is evidence of marine creatures boring into the rock. You see these holy rocks, and they're essentially evidence of marine rocks. So that's two different pieces of evidence for fossils, trace fossils on Mars that Barry was directly involved with finding. Okay, and then what it is that brings us here today are these hexagonal shapes. All right, so I'm going to stop it there. We'll come back to the slideshow to show more hexagons. You can kind of see it in the background there. So I just want to give a brief history of what Barry's contributions have been. And still, because guys, I'm sure these okay, maybe I'm not sure, but in my feed, I have seen plenty of people looking at these hexagons, posting about these hexagons, non-Mars related accounts, newspapers covering these strange, mysterious hexagons on Mars. NASA's tweeting about it all the time. What are these mysterious hexagons on Mars? And if you've seen the video I just published this week, whenever it was, about what these things could possibly be and what Barry has identified them as possibly being, I mean, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. I think I've shown these on the show before, but we'll stop it there. Barry, did I get anything wrong? Maybe just say a few words about yourself and your history here.
Well, I think you did a good job. How's that? Quite simply, you did a marvelous job, as they say in show business.
Okay, so why don't you just tell us, when did you first hear about the Viking mission, Dr. Gillivan? What sort of was your inspiration for getting into this, and what compelled you to write the book in the first place?
Well, it's actually really an unbelievable story.
Make it just like the 60-second version.
You know more than most people.
This is a 60-second version. Yeah.
You know, some people would say, "Oh, come on, man, that just cannot be true." Especially the events that unfolded in 1976, when Gale was actually looking on the planet Mars, looking for life. Okay, I was interested in it because I was an amateur astronomer at the time. And, I used to have subscriptions to like Sky and Telescope magazine and Astronomy magazine. And when Viking launched, I was glued, okay? I was glued like you wouldn't believe. I wanted to know if there was life on Mars. So they were sending that probe there, two of them, Viking 1 and Viking 2. And, that caught my attention in that year. And ever since then, I had been interested in that particular program. So as I was progressing through my other day jobs that I had, and I decided take a chance at becoming some sort of writer. I had a lot of connections in the music industry, and I started doing like music interviews and things like that, with different artists. And an English professor that I had one time said, "Hey, you should try selling some of your work to scientific publications," because the English professor knew I had a bent for science, and especially biology. So I started off writing aerospace articles and interviewing astronauts, test pilots, you name it. I interviewed them. But I always had in the back of my mind that I want to track down this Levin and Strat person. Well, slowly but surely, I graduated from one magazine to the next. I've written for many magazines. You could probably list about 20 of them here. I actually wrote for Sky and Telescope. I wrote for astronomy. I worked for Air and Space, Smithsonian. I worked for Flight Journal, Microbe Magazine, published by the American Society for Microbiology.
Barry has corresponded with some of the most famous scientists ever. He saved all these emails. Arthur C. Clarke, he showed me some of these emails. For those people, I'm going to skip ahead, Barry, because we got a bunch of stuff to get to.
Okay.
For those people familiar with this hypothesis known as panspermia, where the little microbes travel across space from one planetary body to another, okay? This term was popularized by two people in the 20th century, one Fred Hoyle and another Chandra Wickramasinghe. Okay, Chandra is actually of Sri Lankan descent, but he lives in Wales, still with us today. But Barry actually worked with Chandra, so that they have a nice working relationship as well. Barry, you're part of the Cardiff Astrobiology Research Center, is that correct?
Before they discontinued it, yeah.
Okay. So Barry has got some serious scientific credentials, but many people just don't know him. He's not online, but he's been working this entire time behind the scenes, and he's intersected with quite a number of influential people in the scientific community. And I think that, Barry, this is perhaps your most significant contribution here. The book was great, and obviously for those people who want to know the history, it's there. And I don't know of any better resource of information on the history of the Viking mission, specifically the biology experiments, than Barry's book. Okay, it is the definitive version of this whole thing, and it's fantastic. I'm Barry's hype man, obviously, but I'm everybody's hype man, because this is what got me into the game, right? All this cool, exciting work that most people don't know about, and I think this is, Barry, what got you to write the book. It's more people should know about this whole thing. So, as it relates to these hexagons, Barry, why don't you tell us when you first stumbled upon these hexagons on Mars? Okay, when did these first catch your eye, and did you know immediately? Had you seen these things before? What clued you into why you suspected that these things might be fossils?
Well, the field of paleoichnology takes you to many strange places. And when you see enough of the different varieties of trace fossils out there, and you see them over and over again, you get to recognize these patterns. And they all have particular names like planolites, Thessalinoides, chondrites, Arthophycus, and all of them. And finally, you get to grapholiptids, okay, which are these interesting trace fossils that leave these geometric patterns in the rock record. And there's one in there that's really what we're talking about here today, and that's Paleodictyon. And that leaves these hexagonal polygons that you see on Earth from 500 million years ago, the late Cambrian period to Mars now. When I follow the Curiosity rover since it landed. Okay, I think it's an incredible mission. Okay, I think it's equally as interesting as Viking was, and even more, because it's given us so much ground truth for what Gale found and Pat Stratt. So I'm just enthralled by every little increment as it crawls up this mountain, Mount Sharp, which is like 18,000 feet high. Okay, so we're talking about a big hill, and as it's going from the bottom where an ancient lake used to be, all kinds of deposits down there that you see, and I'm glued looking for trace fossils. Okay, everybody else is looking for the other stuff, the evidence of microbial life, with the instruments on board Curiosity, like the chem instrument, which is great. It's fires a laser and hits a rock, and you can see the elements that are in the rock, and that's wonderful. And the SAM instrument, the sample analysis at Mars, that does the search for organic material, which is most interesting of all. And when Curiosity started finding complex organic molecules, that immediately told me that Gil Levin and his co-experimenter, Patricia Ann Stratt, definitely found life on Mars. And I thought to myself, why isn't NASA telling the world this right now? Because the only reason that Gil's experiment wasn't accepted by the Viking team was because of this idea that there were no organic molecules on Mars, that there was some mysterious oxidant that was raining down on Mars. They thought at one point that it was hydrogen peroxide molecules forming in the atmosphere of Mars that would form this mist, and it would gently go down to the surface and eat all the organics up. And that's what hydrogen peroxide does. If you put it on a finger where you have you cut yourself, you see it bubbling up, it's killing all the organic stuff. So as soon as they found organic molecules and complex organic molecules, the ball game was over. There's a famous quote by Gerald Soffen, who was the Viking biology team leader, and he was the one that actually dismissed all the positive Viking biology results, because there was no organic molecules found by this other instrument called the gas chromatograph mass spectrometer, which is designed to look for organic molecules in the soil. But this thing, only had a temperature of about 500 degrees C that it could reach, which just wasn't enough to liberate organic molecules in its gas chromatograph. So
Barry, what are we looking at here? Barry gave me these slides here. So tell us about your process. First of all, orient us. But before we get into the slides themselves, orient us here with these map images, and tell us where this rover was here. What are we looking at?
Okay, we're looking at Aeolus Mons, which was renamed by NASA Mount Sharp after a scientist that did a lot of work on craters on Mars, and of course passed away. So they named the mountain after him, Mount Sharp. And down below, you can see where the Curiosity rover, the Mars Science Laboratory, that was its official name, where it landed. And it landed in an area that they designated the Bradbury Station. And of course, that was Ray Bradbury, the famous science fiction writer. So they dedicated that landing site named to him. And right off the get-go, that little rover started finding things like you wouldn't believe. And this is NASA's greatest story up to this point. And if they'd only just connect the organic molecules to the Viking experiments, we would have a different space program today. So anyways, I follow this. I followed this since day one, this trek that goes up this mountain. And at each stage, there's something fascinating and convincing that there was life here at one point. What do we got going on here? Somebody's fiddling around with their computer.
All right, keep going.
Okay, so you can see this mountain's pretty big, 18,000 feet, So when you say, well, where is Curiosity now? Where did it find the Paleodictyon hexagons? Well, we'd have to go to another slide to see that. Here we go. Now we're talking. Okay, so Curiosity had been traveling a while here. You can see up there it says Curiosity's location. This is actually from the NASA Curiosity site itself. So Sol 4942. Okay, so a total distance of 23.16 miles. So that line you see is the path that the rover took coming up this huge channel that is going right up the mountain. Okay, so very exciting stuff. It's amazing, amazing that this little rover has done this tremendous job. But each stage of this mission, there is tremendous, exciting things going on. And, one of the first things I literally flipped over was when it went up to Vera Rubin Ridge. Okay, it got up on top of that ridge there, and it went over to this small, unnamed crater. And in that crater is where it found those little fossil squiggles that Brian showed you earlier in the program. And as soon as I saw those, I go, oh my God, I'm going, they're looking for evidence of microbial life, and that here you have evidence of trace fossils right then and there. So a fascinating fact about that is that during that time period, this was 2017, okay? And the scientists working on the rover put it into an automatic mode, okay? It has an ability to go and search for different features while the scientists took a Christmas break. Okay, this is no lie. This is what happened, okay? So while the scientists are taking their Christmas break, the rover goes into this little crater and starts focusing in on some of these rocks in it. And lo and behold, there's about 5 or 6 different rocks that have these different squiggles in them and other different features that trace fossils show. So, I sent, excuse me, I'll take a drink here. I sent some of the images that I captured off of my computer screen. I sent it to Leonard David, who's a science writer for space.com, and he also writes for Scientific American. And he put a little story about it on his space blog, and then from there it exploded. I mean, trace fossils on Mars. I mean, this, kind of took the breath away from people looking for the microbes, I mean, because what you're talking about multicellular life if they're trace fossils, because you can see them with your naked eye. So very exciting stuff. And it did go viral all over the world. And I mean, it was incredible. So
there's actually a news clip. If you go to the Blue Planet Red website, I've linked a YouTube clip where Barry's on the local news talking about this, and that was my first introduction to Barry. And then I'm like, I gotta call this guy. keep going. So Barry, let's go back to these hexagons here. When you first saw them, what did you think?
Well, it just fell into place because after the area on Vera Rubin Ridge, the rover was moving up the Getty's Valley's channel, and as it was moving up the channel, the first thing that it came across were those rocks with the holes in them that looked like they had been bored by pittocks. I don't know if you've ever seen pittock borings. It's like a bivalve, like a clam that looks almost like wings, these clams, and they have the ability to bore into solid rock and leave these holes. Okay, so here we are. It's coming up the channel, and I see these rocks with holes all over the place in this one area in the channel, and I'm going, oh my God. So I know a couple of ichnologists, who do the same work, only they're much better at it and have done it longer than I have. And I sent it to a couple of them, and they said it looked just like pittock borings. Yeah. So, I tried to talk to the people on the rover team. I sent it out to Ashwan Vasaveda, who is the project scientist for Curiosity. And I think he wrote like a 4-word note back to me saying, oh, very interesting. But that was it. Okay, so then, as the rover's continuing up that channel, they decide that they saw some boxwork formations from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. Okay, this orbiter, it has been circling Mars and taking these highly detailed pictures from orbit, and it saw these features down on the surface of Mount Sharp that looked like it was like spider webs, as NASA said. So they wanted to send the rover there to see what that's all about, why all these different geometric shapes. And the geometric shapes from orbit were like they were little lakes or something. They were carved by wind, NASA says, but to me they looked like tiny areas where water used to dwell. So anyways, as they move along toward the boxworks, they start encountering these hexagon features. And I'm thinking to myself, well, there was these little Planolites type trace fossils there on Vera Rubin Ridge. Now we're a little higher up on the mountain. We saw something that looked like pittock borings. And now the rover takes a right from the Getty's Vallis area and goes up to this new area that they're calling Valle Grande. Okay, and it hasn't been named on a map yet, but that's where they started blowing their minds, seeing all these hexagons. And well, there were so many of them that it overwhelmed, it blew their minds, basically. I mean, there are millions of them all over the place. But the thing that really drew my attention to them specifically is that beneath those hexagons were structures that looked like stromatolites. Okay, I don't know if all you guys are familiar with stromatolites, but stromatolite is like one of the earliest life forms that was on the Earth, and it was they're made by like cyanobacteria that build up these fossil-like features over time, they're always constantly reaching for the light. They're underwater, and eventually some of them will break through the water. But my question was, wow, why am I seeing stromatolites and then seeing, like
these are stromatolites here on Earth. They're known as some of the oldest, or if not the oldest, forms of
life. Yeah. So
right. You see them in shallow water, right?
Why am I seeing Paleodictyon hexagons on top of stromatolites? So I start writing to people.
Hang on, Barry. Just let me just orient people.
Yeah.
What Barry's discovery of these hexagonal features being like Paleodictyon trace fossils, we're going to connect some dots here, is made even more. It's even more amazing because Barry actually discovered 2 different pieces of evidence for ancient fossilized marine life right here in this area on Mars, where all these hexagons were found. And to appreciate what he's talking about, we just sort of have to just do a little educational bit here. These stromatolites, if you get enough of them and they start growing and building, and it takes a really long time, they tend to make walls. Okay, let's see, where might one of those pictures be? Okay, here's a cross section. Okay, you get enough of these together, and then they start to join together, and they make these walls. Let's see here. Oh, here, and it can be quite significant. This little circle here is a hammer. Okay, and what Barry is saying, and I'll let him elaborate on this, but what Barry is saying is that we see evidence of stromatolites in this same area on Mars, and on top of the stromatolites is where we also see these hexagons. Okay, so these stromatolites and the Paleodictyon trace fossils, they are known to be fossils from shallow water locations. So the evidence is even stronger in that regard. And this here is obviously on Earth, but on Mars, what he noticed first was just something as simple as this, okay? And Barry, you saw this, and then you said, hey, this looks like stromatolite, but I want to who did you contact after this?
The first person I contacted was Nora Nofke.
Okay, skip over her.
Well, no, I don't want to skip over Nora. No, she is the world's leading expert on microbial mats.
Okay, go ahead.
So you would go to her first because microbial mats and stromatolites can look similar, the fossilized versions, right? So I went to her first, and she actually wrote a paper about microbial mats on Mars, imaged by Curiosity quite a while ago, when the mission first began. And her paper was published in Astrobiology Journal, and but she changed her mind because of I thought it was peer pressure. A lot of people just said, "Come on, Nora, microbial mats on Mars, come on," And I think she caved. She's a fantastic scientist, and I believe that she could have been right.
There's a scientist, Nora Nofke, okay, and she wrote a paper about fossilized microbial mats on Mars, and what she's basically saying is that was there evidence she thought that there was microbial mats on Mars?
Yeah.
Is that what
she had photographic evidence.
Okay, and microbial mats are what build up the layers of stromatolites.
No. Microbial mats and stromatolites share layers, but they're built from different types of microorganisms.
Okay.
Microbial mats generally have maybe a dozen different types of microorganisms from the top down because of the different levels of oxygen, light, and stuff like that. Whereas stromatolites are mainly produced by cyanobacteria creating these layers. So they're related for sure, but
Okay.
she
Go ahead.
ruled it
Go ahead.
out eventually. She said, no, I guess I was wrong.
She published a paper, but you're saying she sort of backtracked because of peer pressure.
That's what I think. Yeah, I might be wrong, but she's convinced.
This is what happened with Dr. Carol Stoker and the chlorophyll evidence. She published on that. She got peer pressure, and then she backed off of that too.
Yeah, similar things happen like that a lot.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
Okay. So here's the thing. Okay. Now with Paleodictyon, okay, it's a rare fossil to see today, even though it still exists today. But back then, 500 million years ago, what was the state of things on Earth? Okay. I never saw a Paleodictyon net on top of a microbial mat before. Okay. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is really different. How do I put this together, this type of information? Because here you have a microbial mat or a stromatolite, and which are evidence of microbial life. And then you have the Paleodictyon net over the top of these stromatolites or microbial mats, which is evidence of multicellular life. So you see what I'm saying? You have microbial on the bottom, and then you have a net on the top. And the connection is that, of course, scientists think that the net that Paleodictyon creates is for farming purposes, to feed off of microbial life. So those little hexagons are there like a cornfield or something like that, and to keep feeding the organism that makes the Paleodictyon trace fossil. So
we have an artist's interpretation of what this might have looked like. See, the challenges with these hexagons is that we don't know what the creature looks like. We don't know what the creature looks like who created the hexagons. What we think is that these hexagons are more like the net that it created that has been fossilized, the net it creates to capture its prey. And here's just an artist's representation. Barry shared this with me. This is just an idea about what they think those nets looked like. Is that correct?
Yeah, now this is an artist's interpretation of the Strelly pool stromatolites on top of these hexagonal microbial mats. And I wrote to the person that published this beautiful painting or artwork, and I tried to understand where I could find this. I wanted to go there and see this for myself. And well, I never got a reply back. And then I talked to Professor Robert Riding, who is probably the world's leading expert on stromatolites themselves. And I asked Riding, who had been out to the Strelly pool stromatolites, if that was an accurate representation of what he saw out there. Yeah, that's him right there. Great guy. Hello.
This guy here is one of the world's leading experts on stromatolites.
He was one of the first people that I met when I was invited to go to Cardiff University. And, he and Chandra were really good friends. And he invited me right away into his office to talk. And he was just the most helpful scientist you could ever talk to about stromatolites. I mean, he's been to them all the places on Earth. So I really respect his opinion. And plus, he doesn't have a real big ego where, he gets like a newcomer like me coming in to the university, and he snubs his nose at me thinking, well, this guy ain't going to go anywhere. Why waste my time talking to him? Well, his inspiration kept me going, and I never forgot him for it. So I wrote to him about, what I was seeing there with the Paleodictyon net over the top of what looked like trace fossils. And he wrote back to me saying, yeah, he goes, if those stromatolite looking things were on Earth, that's what I would say they are. So, there's several pictures there that I sent you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get just
the one on my abstract that I sent to the Lunar Planetary Institute.
You sent him images like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's what he was talking about. Yeah.
You guys remember the wall I just showed you with the stromatolites? If they start to build up, they start to form these walls. And you see the layering here. Okay. So Barry sent these images over to Robert Riding. He's at the University of...
Well, he's in the United States now. So
he's a professor at some university. And like I said, stromatolite expert. And basically responded to Barry saying, well, yes, these kind of look like stromatolites to me. It would be helpful to have better photographs, but based on what we have here, I have strong enough reason to believe that this is worthy of further investigation, something to that effect. Is that right, Barry?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. So as boring as this appears to be, quote unquote, we have just a little rock wall. What's the big deal? All right. Well, it's a huge deal when you have one of the world's leading experts saying, yeah, that looks like a stromatolite on Mars. And oh, by the way, these little hexagonal patterns on top of it indicating yet another marine animal was present in this area. This is huge. I don't think, and Barry has got the scoop here. Barry, when did you first spot these images?
Well, if you follow along like I do, the Curiosity rover mission, going up the mountain on different sols. Basically a day on Mars is called a sol. So these things caught my attention on sol 4530. And if you go back to that map of Gatas Vallis, the mountain area. Well, if you go to the other image, there's another image I gave you that is that one. Yes. Okay. So you can see where the rover went up, Gatas Vallis. And I suppose if I try to put my finger on the area, you guys won't see it, right?
Here, am I close? You see the arrow?
No, come a little more this way.
That's
up
hilarious.
Or
down? Right here.
Barry, up or down? I can't see where your finger is.
Oh, down.
Down.
Down to your right. Follow the track of the rover.
Yeah, it's on it.
Okay, well, go more to the right.
To the
or
right.
To the left.
To the left.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going. Keep going. Keep her going. Keep her going. Keep her going. Keep her going. All right. There.
Is this where it is today?
No. No. You passed the area.
Where did the rover land? Where did the rover land? Where the blue thing is?
Way beyond that white line that you see down at the bottom.
Up north. It landed up north, Brian.
Okay. And it traveled south. Okay. Got it.
Okay. So, okay.
Thank you.
Keep going a little bit. Keep right about there. Stop. Go back just a titch. Right. Right there is probably where Sol 4530 was, and that's where I first saw these.
Okay, so in human years, was this earlier this year? Was this last year? When did you first notice this?
This was in May of this year.
May of this year. Okay. When did? But you see, Barry did the right thing as a scientist. Is he published? He got an abstract published on this
Right.
at the Lunar Planetary Conference. What was it, Barry?
Lunar and Planetary Science Conference. Yeah, of this year.
When was that published?
This year.
What month?
Well, I don't know. One of those months.
Okay, Barry first came across this earlier this year.
Oh, yeah, it was published in March, actually. So.
Okay, we got it published in March. So you must have found this when?
Yeah, before that. Yeah.
Okay, but not just half a year ago, let's say. So
Yeah,
anyway,
all right.
So Barry got this published. He talked to me about this, and it took me quite a while to understand what the hell it is he's talking about. Stromatolites, Paleodictyons. Anyway, so Barry, great for you for staying on top of this. This is the problem. NASA should be doing this. Uh-oh, am I still there?
I'm back.
Hello, Dave.
Oh, Dave popped in. Okay. This is the stuff that NASA should be doing, but they're not. And here we have a scientist with all, he's got excellent credentials. He's been publishing before. Barry, you've emailed directly with NASA representatives. Sure. And they keep posting about how they think this is such a mystery. And here we have it all laid out for them. Okay? Yet they still don't want to take any of this seriously. And we're not even talking about UFOs. We're talking about boring marine fossils, relatively speaking. I know. I'm just saying relatively speaking.
Boring.
It's a stupid word to use. I'm just saying that it's not the sensational stuff. It is quite.
Oh, yes, it is. I debate with you.
All right, fine. All I'm saying is you're not claiming that there's little green men flying around on flying saucers on Mars. You're saying very simply that there's evidence for ancient marine life located right here, NASA. I've already consulted with the world's leading expert on this. Why aren't you listening to me?
Well, the coup de grace, as they say, is going to be when they do the analysis that they did with the last. I have to actually read the name of the chemical here that they're using. There was 2 cups of this outstanding wet chemistry experiment, abbreviated as the TMAH reagent cup. Okay, they used the last one at this site in Valle Grande. They drilled into a rock and they used this wet chemistry on a rock called Nevado Sajama. And I'm waiting for the results to come out from this, but this is what they say. Let me read this to you. It says,
Barry, you're saying that they're performing another experiment to see what the chemical composition is of this stuff?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we're waiting for those results.
Yeah, here's what it says. Specific public release dates for the second tetramethyl ammonium hydroxide wet chemistry experiment from Nevado Sajama 2 drill site are not yet available. NASA mission reports state that these complex secondary analyses are currently being written up by the science team for a future peer-reviewed publication. Now, I've written to a couple of the people that took that sample, and I want to know if they found additional organic molecules that lead to the conclusion that there is multicellular life all over the place in that area. So it's going to be a big deal if they release it. If they release it.
Right. So Barry's a true scientist here. He's staying on top of this. He's waiting. He's enduring this excruciating time for them to run this additional test to see what this chemical composition is, just so it can either confirm or support whatever it is that he's saying here. And it just seems so obvious. Look, I'm just saying. I'm cutting to the chase here. It just seems so obvious that if you have all of this evidence and these things, and when you put them side by side, they're similar not only in shape but in size. Okay, and you might have people. There's another gentleman, Dr. Ruff, I think, another scientist out there who did a whole video on these hexagons, and he compared them to the Death Valley. Goodness, where is it? Sorry, let me just get through here. He compared it to the Death Valley cracks. The heck is it? This guy, Dr. Stephen Ruff out of Arizona State University, he has a YouTube channel, and he made a video on these hexagons. And this is the video. He's like, hey, look at these hexagons. And he compares it to these Death Valley cracks.
No.
And these are ridges.
Yeah. No.
And these cracks are not, obviously not, they're irregular, first of all. They're cracks. They're not the same size. And that's the best they got.
Yeah, those are really big, by the way. If you've ever been to Death Valley, like some of those are like almost like a foot across.
So meanwhile, Barry says, no, not the same thing. By the way, they're not cracks. They're ridges. They're straight polygonal, hexagonal ridges, the same size. So we're talking centimeters across here. And it just seems so obvious to me. This seems so obvious, which is why Barry, when I say boring, I mean that. I don't mean that directly. This is obviously very exciting. It's why I asked you to come on the show today. I'm all hyped up about this because we're talking about fossils on Mars. And that, in some circles, is a very controversial issue, but I think it's just so obvious, and we need to be spending a whole lot more time talking about this and giving you all the credit for it.
Well, if you found evidence of multicellular life on two planets in the same solar system, guess what that means?
Means we're not so special.
It means that there's life all over the damn universe. Okay.
Right.
Everywhere that we will look, we're going to find it. You know, when I was an amateur astronomer, way back when, I'm 73 now. So, when I was a kid, 10 years old, the farthest planet that we knew about was Pluto. Now it's not even a planet anymore. It's a dwarf planet, not even part of the planets in the solar system. So, to find out that all these years later that we've found like over 6,000 extra, planets out there, extrasolar planets. That's incredible. I mean, and they're finding things out about these planets all that they're looking for atmospheres to see if they're in the right habitable zones. And this is, to me, it's a mind-blowing thing. Just all these years later, I got to see this. I mean, I could die right now and just be happy that I saw exoplanets. One of my favorite TV shows on in reruns is how the universe was made. I don't know if you guys watch it or not, but I highly recommend it. Each and every episode is just filled with truth about astronomical subjects, and wow, I mean, exciting stuff to me. Not boring, not at all.
I mean it in a nice way. I don't mean it's boring.
Oh, I know.
Obviously, I would be covering this and spending so much time with you on the phone if I thought it was boring. But so let's go around the room, guys. Does all that? It took me a long time to put all this together. Barry obviously is very comfortable in the world of paleoichnology. It's not something I'd ever heard of. So I had to educate myself and doing my best to try to educate others. Do you see what we're trying to put together? Does it work? Does it not work? What are you guys' initial impressions after just seeing some of this stuff? Shaman,
well, go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Jason. Can you guys hear me? My microphone fell. Okay, cool. Yeah, do you know what? When you mentioned those boxed-in areas that the rover's driving through right now, we've compared those to, for the sake of comparison, not that they are, but we compared them to salt fields or fish farms where they have these enclosed boxed-in areas.
Yeah.
And there's water there in those boxed-in areas. So to me, it makes perfect sense that these things were growing in water on Mars. And what surprises me is that there are people that when they look at something from top down, They can't make out depth. That's why, to me, it's no surprise that this guy thinks these are cracks and not ridges. I don't know what you call that phenomenon, but some people can't make out depth or height if they're looking at something straight down, top to bottom. So, yeah, maybe the guy's suffering from that phenomenon, or he just doesn't want to admit that there is something on Mars. And why is it taking so long for them to release the results of that experiment?
Well,
because that must have been done about a year ago.
Yeah, they had 2 cups of that particular chemical.
Yes.
And they used the one when it was down below, before it started climbing up the channel there. And that's the one that caused the sensation about all the organic molecules they found. They found organic molecules that relate to RNA and DNA. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So we're getting really close here. So now they're going into this huge field of possible stromatolites, microbial mat, and Paleodictyon trace fossils. And they just drilled into a rock there.
Oh, so that happened recently. Okay.
Yeah. So we're waiting.
I'll wait for the results on that one.
Yeah. When that comes out, that is going to be big. And NASA may make that big announcement then. If these really are what I think they are, and what it appears to me, but the geochemical evidence speaks loudly. If they come back saying, well, this is nothing but calcium sulfite cracks and fills, that's not going to go anywhere. But if they come back saying, well, we found things like fatty acids and lipids, and your imagination can run wild with what they might announce. Okay. I'm expecting a big announcement. I'm thinking that this is going to be the thing that, brings NASA back to, to being an organization, what they should have been all along.
Unless they say, okay, those were like lake beds that dry up and crack, and then minerals filled in the cracks, and then over time the wind erosion removed all the softer material and left these mineral deposits. They could
still doesn't work because it's irregular, Jean, right?
Yeah,
I mean, anybody that looks at those dried mud beds, I don't mean to interrupt, but just to help make your point.
Yes.
Like I know from my studies, cyclopean walls, like the walls in Peru and whatnot, the very large ones, right? Well, there are some people that say that construction came from people noticing it in nature, noticing it in mud, right? And what's the main characteristic of that is the irregularity. So that just doesn't hold for me as it being a lake bed. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's my
not at all.
That.
That's an important point that you make there as well. But that is, Atlantis chaos. Just to deviate a little bit off the track here, Atlantis chaos has got these regular rectangular shaped sort of boxed in areas as well. And NASA claims those are cracks that were filled with some type of mineral. The wind erosion removed all the softer material and left these deposits. That's why they look like ridges, like boxed in areas. So I'm not saying they're going to do it, but they've said it before. So it wouldn't surprise me if they say something similar in that line with this discovery.
But Brian,
I don't trust them, to be honest.
Brian, you have the secret weapon there. Remember the images I told you?
The black and white?
The black and white images of the nets pouring down over the rocks.
All right, where'd Dave go?
He's got problems with thunder, the thunderstorm.
I need to share Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen again here, and if
while you're doing that, do I have time to take a quick tinkle here?
Yeah, go for it. I don't know.
Body break.
I need Dave to hit the button to allow me to share the screen again.
I think you might have to call him, Brian.
Oh.
I think he went offline.
You don't have the share capability?
It needs an
No
acceptance.
permission.
Like you can't do it?
No, I don't have it too, yeah.
Yeah,
Megan had, so...
I don't use Streamio, so in the one I use, Riverside, you can just, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. So did Dave, what's the matter? Has he got storms, I guess? I mean, we've got rain here, so he got knocked out.
Yeah, in the chat, he mentioned that he's got terrible thunderstorms in his area.
Well, all right.
He says he's gone offline. It's crazy. He's muted. So let's see.
Well, the odd world of podcasting. It happens. Yeah. I had the same thing happen yesterday in a show. Ricardo, who was hosting, he got knocked out. And so the guests and I were just there like, we can't really end this thing, but...
Yeah. Everybody, I'll be back in a sec as well. Body break.
Go ahead,
All
John.
right, we gotta keep the show
Intermission.
Okay. Let's see here.
Yeah, I thought about the basic debunk of this, debunking idea that it's just cracks in the rock, like as John mentioned that these cracks here on Earth are like into the rock, and then on Mars they are out of the rock. And even if I think about geology, about any kind of stone formations, there are some that are hexagonal, but they never create this net of hexagons. There would be like hexagonal crystals coming out of somewhere, but it will never be such a net. So I think it's very easy to debunk that. I also think I have an idea, if we are talking about debunking or something, maybe there are some top geologists or whoever who can show you that yes, here on Earth there are very similar structures, but not like the example of rock cracking, because it was funny to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Barry, we're having a little tech difficulties because Dave isn't here to grant me permission to share anything more. So why don't we just sort of describe what you're trying to talk about with these black and white images?
Well, really? You don't have them in your possession?
I do, but I need Dave to let me share them, and Dave is having some tech difficulties, so he's currently...
So we're using Dave's platform, and this particular platform requires whoever's hosting to give permissions when someone wishes to share. And so with him knocked out, we're kind of just back to radio hour here.
From what I understand, Barry, I think what Barry's trying to tell us, he gave me a series of images which show these hexagonal formations on vertical surfaces. Is that right, Barry?
Well, it looks like you can imagine what trickling water would look like going over some boulders, right?
Right.
Imagine now that these nets, these hexagonal polygons, are flowing with the water over the top of the rocks, several boulders, to the surface. Okay, and you see these, you can see these on these boulders that were taken from the mast camera on Curiosity from a great distance. It looked toward like the channel walls, and it saw the lower part of the channel wall where you could see these boulders stacked up, and you could see all these nets following the pattern of the boulders going in the different fold areas and going over the next boulder. And it is absolute proof that these things are not formed by different periods of wet and dry. There's no way that that would make that.
So let's examine.
I agree. Yeah.
NASA's explanation for these are that these hexagonal shapes were formed over cycles of wet and dry seasons. Mud forming and then water coming in, mud forming, and then it drying out. Water is. Are we talking billions of years ago before it lost its water? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but you're saying because we see them on not just horizontal surfaces, but sort of on all the surfaces of where the water was flowing over, like a mini waterfall or something, right? We're seeing that on the contours of the rock, not just on horizontal, but on vertical surfaces, going down like this, sort of going down like this. That wet dry cycles can't form hexagons so perfectly on surfaces like that with wet dry cycles.
And you can see that as the net features were going over the rocks, they were drying out and kind of getting stretched out in some places. It looks like they were distorted, but you just can't explain it as just wind and water splashing up against boulders. No.
Right.
Now, one look at that, and I think the ball game's over, even without the geochemical evidence. I mean, that is such a strong thing for a geomorphologist to try to explain. Your friend, who was the gentleman with Death Valley?
Oh, Ruff?
Ruff, yeah. Did you show Ruff those?
My friend. No. I should probably email him.
Yeah, ask him what his explanation is for that. Do you see the Death Valley polygons going up the side of the mountain? See what he says.
Yeah, he definitely needs to respond to that. Tell you what, guys, I'm going to go give Dave a quick call and see if he can come back and join us. Did somebody, what was that? Oleg and Jason, maybe you could just share some more thoughts.
As I said,
Absolutely.
I think we should
Oleg.
try to get some maybe top-tier geologists to debunk your ideas that these are fossils. Maybe they have some great examples that in such formations can be created without any kind of microbes or any kind of living organisms, and then we may debate. But this debunk of this rough guy, I think it was very, very bad.
Well, honestly, when I talked to Nora Nafke, Dr. Nora Nafke, the microbial mat expert, I showed her those images, and she plainly told me that she didn't see anything microbial there. Okay, so she would be the one to debunk me for sure, and that's why I wrote to her. I actually wanted her to debunk me if she could. I thought, well, if she could debunk me, I would just carry on and just forget about this whole thing. But then I wrote to Robert Riding, who is the world's leading expert on stromatolites and microbial mats too. And he said what he said to me, that if I saw them on Earth, this is what they would look like to me. Yeah. So, yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
That's science, right? That's what.
Yeah, but I thought of some example on Earth that is looking very similar, but a good example, not like these cracks on the desert that may be looking, well, this is natural example of non-microbial life that looks almost like 100% similar to that. And I think that Dr. Nora haven't, or maybe she provided to you such an example.
Well, I'm open-minded. I'm ready to take a hit. If these aren't Paleodictyon trace fossils, well, I'm an astrobiologist. I have to present the biology side of the story. I mean, think of where I come from. I wrote that book with Dr. Levin, okay? And to me, he discovered life on Mars a long time ago. He and Pat Strett. So, everything that I've seen from his evidence, all the dissent and criticisms that I've heard, NASA and others say about his work, it just doesn't hold water after all this time, after 50 years. No.
Mm-hmm.
He is.
I would say it's been very convincing.
All right.
There he is.
Lightning strike, Dave.
Yeah, a bunch of times. It would sound like an explosion, like 3 times. The power went out and stuff. I thought it was going to cut all this whole thing off because this is all running through my software, but it didn't. It kept going. So that's
we're good, Dave. We got just a few more slides to share on my end, and then I'm going to switch it over to John. Okay, guys, I want to show you what Barry and I were just discussing. Okay, these last few black and white here, hexagons going over. So Barry, if you could just once again. Dave, we just got done talking about how NASA's explanation for these hexagons are that they are created by wet-dry cycles, mud forming and then cracking. But what Barry is saying is that due to the fact that we see them on these vertical surfaces of where water was suspected of trickling down almost like a mini waterfall going down these vertical surfaces, that blows that explanation out of the water. Is that right, Barry? Once again.
That's right. Yes. Yep.
Go ahead. Just say a few more words now that Dave's back for us.
Well, go to the next slide. Next one. These all speak of that, but just think the mast cam, which is quite a distance away, is focusing on the walls of the channel as it goes up. And I noticed that these patterns on the rocks there only go up to a certain level. So in other words, they don't go all the way to the top of the channel, which is fairly high, So they start right about at this level and wash down to the bottom of the channel. And I don't think there's any other explanation other than these things are just, especially this one here. Oh my God, look at that. I mean, explain it with wet and dry cycles. Go ahead. Any one of you. I'd like to hear it.
No. Looks like an ear of corn, man. That's just it's far too regular to. And I see precisely what you're saying about the ridges, and yeah, it makes sense now I'm seeing the pictures. It looks much more like a rice or paddy field or something with terraces. That certainly could not be explained by, as you say, the dry bed drying. No.
Yeah, and what those are, you could see that they were hexagonal, and then as they were cascading over the rocks, they were slightly stretched out. That's what they look like. I could be wrong, but it sure does look like. Look at this. Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at that. I mean, explain that to me, with wet and dry cycles, but it's not all the way up the top of the channel. I don't know.
That piece on the left, so it's on 2 sides of it. I mean, that definitely, you can't do. See how it's on? So I've got this piece here on the far left where I've got like a bottom and a side. Yeah, like a slice of cake. Yeah, it's on both sides of that.
Yeah, slice of cake is a good analogy.
Yeah, good eye, Juice.
There you go.
So I think that NASA's going to have to explain that big time.
Right. So anyway, glad Dave could rejoin us here. I'm going to hand it over to John. I know John's got a few things to present.
I had a quick question for Barry, just like to wrap that up. What would it take in your view, like with all the stuff that we're talking about, for NASA or the broader scientific community to like finally acknowledge that life has already been detected on Mars? Like, it seems like kind of what would it take at this point?
Well, are you talking about microbial or are you talking about multicellular?
Well, I'm talking about microbial, yeah, like what we're talking about in the honeycombs, and who knows what kind of creature could have potentially made those.
Well, from my perspective, I think that especially, I don't know how much you guys have been following Dr. Stephen Benner's work. Okay, he's called attention to the Viking biology experiments again, and he showed that there was a 50-year error made in the scientific data that was released by the team back then that prevented a majority of the Viking science team to say that, well, there were no organic molecules found by the Viking GCMS, the gas chromatograph mass spectrometer. Well, that means if you don't have any organic molecules, the stuff of life, that means your biology experiments that indicated that you were getting a reaction like metabolism from the soil can't be right. So Stephen is a fantastic chemist, and he wrote to Science and had them correct. Science is probably the most respected journal in the world as far as publications go. And he wrote to Science and demanded that they corrected that error, because he said the GCMS did find evidence of organics in the soil. And he said the error was made by the scientist working on the Viking GCMS. His name was Dr. Claus Beeman. And Dr. Beeman said that the only thing that the Viking GCMS found were cleaning chemicals that were used on the Viking GCMS instrument, and he said that on the route to Mars, they actually fired up the GCMS, and they got some data back that suggested that they detected cleaning fluids in the instrument. And then when they went and landed on Mars with both Viking 1 and Viking 2, that the chemical that they found, it was like a chlorine type of chemical, was nothing but cleaning fluids that they detected on the way to Mars. But Benner, being the chemist that he is, went back to the original papers, looked at it, and said, no. He said, this thing detected a certain amount of organic chemistry. And of course, now he's getting the whole scientific community behind him. And his book is out, Meet the Neighbors. And it's all about how NASA perpetuated this myth of oxidants destroying organic material on Mars, and therefore the Viking results were negated because of that, the biology results. So he is making a lot of headway on that. And I'll tell you what, Brian, you did a fantastic job interviewing Dr. Benner, and I think you should get him on your show again.
Yeah, we're going to have Benner and his crew on this show at some point, Dave, to talk more. I consider Dr. Benner, he's an award-winning biochemist down in Florida, okay? This is a guy who is well-respected in his field and with NASA. He's an extremely well-spoken person. He can be incendiary without you even knowing it. And I consider him to be the world's leading expert on the Viking biology experiments today, because we are talking about 50 years later, and I think Barry agrees with me on there. So he understands all the excruciating details, and I've had a chance to interview him before, and he is kind of one of these lone voices saying, no, NASA, you got all this wrong. You really need to change your position on this, because you're just dead wrong on all this stuff. And he's doing it in a much more diplomatic way. And not only that, he's got a book, as Barry just mentioned, he's got a book coming out about all of this, and he's challenging the establishment, but in a very professional way. He, along with his crew down in Florida, they are actually physically building a prototype for an agnostic life finder. Now, what does that mean? It means if you put a bunch of water and soil through this gizmo, it's going to separate out known and unknown forms of DNA. It can figure out what alien DNA is, because Dr. Benner, aside from his specialty in Mars, he actually literally invents and constructs new forms of DNA that are different than our structure, like with more, what is it, Barry? More, that we have GACT, right? His has GACT plus like 6 more or something like that. So he knows how to do this stuff. He knows exactly what he's doing. We know how to detect the life. You know, arguably we've already done it. But if we want to go back and confirm, his experiment would be the one to fly. And it's just a matter, we've got the way, we just need the willpower to do it. But anyway, so Dr. Benner, shout out.
Anyways, I've been reading some comments down here from your viewers. And there's a person named Lee Steven. Came up with a good question. Do you think that sending our spacecraft to Mars is contaminating Martian life if it's there? And absolutely it is. Yeah.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no question about it. When you send anything from our planet to any planet out there, any planet's atmosphere, if it crashes or...
But Barry, what makes the Viking mission so unique in this regard?
Well, first of all, was the time. Okay, this was the time before landed spacecraft. Really, maybe the Russians had like Mars 3 and Mars 4 land there, crash land kind of thing. But it was a pristine planet up to that point regarding any contamination from Earth. So, I asked some people during the time period I was writing the book, Mars, the Living Planet. One of the people that I asked was Klaus Beeman himself, the gentleman that invented the Viking GCMS, because he knew a lot about contamination and things like this. And I said, Dr. Beeman, we've been sending, spacecraft to Mars. This is after my book was published. And what do you think the idea is of contaminating Mars on a global scale due to like dust storms and things like that, carrying hardy microorganisms that survive here on the Earth? And he gave me his estimate. He said about 100 years. About 100 years, he said the planet could be totally contaminated. And then before that, Carl Sagan, he wrote a piece in the journal Science with 2 other scientists on what the power of the mighty microbe would be, and that a microorganism reproducing once a month on Mars without other ecological limitations could equal the microbial population of the Earth in 10 years.
Okay, so Barry, where I was going with this, we were talking about sterilization and the risk of contaminating Mars. The Viking mission is the only mission to have been heat sterilized.
That's right.
Okay, they specifically designed all the electronics to withstand high temperature heating before it went and touched the surface of the planet. Since then, and it cost a lot of money to do this. Okay. But since then, no other mission that we've flown there that has touched Mars has had the benefit of heat sterilization. Okay, they might do general alcohol swabbing here and there, but before they send it, they're not equipping it to be heat sterilized. So the Viking mission is, in this regard, unique.
That's right. Totally unique.
That's why we can trust these results were essentially accurate and that they weren't the product of contamination because they heat sterilized the whole thing.
You're right. That's it.
Brian, there's an interesting bacteria or microbe that they found on the outside of the International Space Station.
Right.
Were those taken up there from Earth, or were those gathered while in orbit?
Big debate about that.
Yeah, because if they treated these landers with this heat radiation to sterilize it, couldn't they have been contaminated out in space?
Yes.
With these little bugs.
Well,
and then taking those down to the planet.
However,
panspermia, right? You're talking about panspermia?
Yes, but remember, Jean, the Viking lander itself it didn't touch space. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was in the back shell.
It had to be enclosed in something. So when it scooped up soil, it's scooping it up off of.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I suppose the back shell and the heat shield sort of prevented the lander from picking up any bugs.
That's a good question.
When the back shell and the heat shield landed on Mars, they could have contaminated.
But as it relates to the
that
spread,
was far from where it landed, so that couldn't have impacted it. No.
As it relates to the spreading of bacteria across the surface, and then we should get to your presentation here real quick. But last thing,
sure, I'm sharing the screen. I'm showing a nice shot of the hexagonal features.
Just real quick, last comment. There's an argument to be made that the microbes on Mars are a lot more, any microbes from Earth would not be adapted to thrive on the Martian surface.
Yeah, correct.
So they're like, they get to Mars, they're like, this is no good for me. It's not a habitable environment even for them. But the microbes on Mars, so to say that Earth bacteria would have taken over Mars, I mean, Barry, am I wrong on this?
Well, last year, 2025, they published a paper, the people that work in the NASA clean rooms, and they discovered 26 new species of extremophiles that had never been seen before, that we essentially had not known that they were on the spacecraft. So when we sent, the Phoenix lander to Mars, it was carrying these 26 species of super hardy Earth bugs that, they can survive in extreme environments. So,
yeah.
And
well, we still see rock varnish on Mars, so something is obviously growing there. And that's the other significant contribution that Barry made, is that the rock varnish, that black coating on rocks that we talked about, okay, that also was discovered by Barry. All right. So Barry has been there. I'm sorry to interrupt here, but we gotta move on because we're running short on time because Dave's got a hard stop in 20 minutes, and I want to make sure Jean gets enough time here. But
like 30 tops.
Yeah.
Don't share my screen so long, please.
I'm sharing whatever you shared.
Okay, can you guys see the presentation?
Yes.
Mars fossils?
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, because I'm showing a nice picture of those hexagons.
Yeah, that's a beauty.
I just want to say 26 extremophiles is crazy. That means we probably don't even know the half of it, of how many you can probably discover.
And how many extremophiles would we be bringing back from Mars in a Mars sample return?
Yeah.
And let alone what will happen to people when they go to Mars. What diseases and viruses could they pick up? Bacteria. It's very dangerous.
Yeah. Go ahead, John. What do you got for us here?
Okay. For those that want to follow along, I've got the URLs listed for the official NASA sources of the photographs we'll be looking at. So the first one was taken by the Mars Hand Lens Imager way back in February of 2022. And it's this strange, it looks almost coral-like artifact. I don't know what you think of this one, Barry. Could it be fossilized coral or lightning that struck the surface and made this funny feature? And then it was uncovered as the wind blew the sand away. What do you think of this?
Well, I would want to know where it was. So was it covered by water at one point?
This was taken by the Curiosity rover in 2022. So that was still when it was sort of at the base of Mount Sharp, where there was probably pooled up water.
It's hard to say. If you saw a grouping of them, I would say there's more of a chance of relating them to something like coral.
Yeah, only one was photographed.
Yeah, but you do realize that when the rover was climbing Getty's Vallis, there was a whole group of what looked to be coral-like features, and I mean these are stunning images. So I wouldn't be surprised if they would have something to do with coral or possibly even bryozoans type creatures.
Yes, I don't know what NASA's official take on this is. They talk about the merging of photographs. Okay, I don't know what they speculate that could be.
But you brought up an interesting point about lightning, because there's a lot of lightning on Mars.
Yes, it's very interesting. Hey?
It's like, yeah.
I just wanted your opinion on what you think of this.
Interesting. Interesting.
Okay. Then also, Curiosity took this photograph. When was it? Where's the date? Oh, back in 2019. And the Mars hand lens imager snapped this photograph.
Concretions.
And, say again, Barry?
They look like concretions, like the blueberries. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, this one's different in that it has a hole and it's got these funny ridges running along the surface.
Okay, yeah. The devil is in the details for sure, right?
Yeah, I've looked at blueberries and they don't look like this. There's smaller ones here next to it. I don't know if you can see where my mouse pointer is. There's smaller round particles.
Yeah. Are you familiar with oids? Oids?
No.
Yeah. Look that word up.
You spell that?
OOIDS, oids. And one of the rovers, I think it was Opportunity, came, it had discovered the blueberry phenomena for many sols. And then it came to this one area and it photographed all these round, like blueberries, but different. They had internal structure. Some of them were split open. And I remember,
they were clumped together.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah,
they were clumped together. That's right, and some of them had holes in them.
Yeah. So I recall Stephen Squires, who was the lead scientist on Opportunity, and he said these are not blueberries. He goes, these are something else, and he never really said anything about it. But I went and I looked in a book of fossils at ooids, strange word, OOIDS, or OOIDES, oids. If you look at that and you look at what Opportunity found, you could see it, such a resemblance. It's unbelievable. So it may be that Opportunity did find these things. And I know there's a lot of, controversy over the blueberries themselves. What do you think they are?
Oh, the blueberries. NASA reckons those were formed through a process of flowing water, if I recall correctly.
But is that your consensus as well?
I'm not sure what to think about that theory.
Yeah.
But I've shown on my channel and on my blog huge balls. They're about 12 centimeters in diameter. And Brian has a theory that those could have been caused by electrical discharge. Am I right, Brian?
Well, I tend to side with the Thunderbolts conclusion that they're the product of electrical discharge. They have some videos on this, which they reproduced these same things in the laboratory. So that for me is my
at
working.
scale. like these are 12 centimeters in diameter, like cannonball size.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't put too much thought into it, but that it made sense to me at the time. I mean, it's sort of
Okay.
I've yet to do a deep dive on it.
Yeah, so I'm also a little reluctant to talk about that because of the thunderbolts theory. I don't want to conflict with their theory, so I don't feature those huge balls anymore.
Jury's out.
One of them looks like a bowling ball. It's actually got two holes next to each other, symmetrical holes, like a coconut or a bowling ball. And it's also huge. It's about 12 centimeters in diameter. All right, then the mast cam or mast camera took the photographs that I'll be showing next, way back in 2022 as well. Probably close to that coral that it photographed. And we'll look at that area that I've highlighted there. There's a close-up look. What does that look like to you guys?
Oh, that's a very interesting photograph for sure.
Weird.
Look
Mushrooms.
at yeah,
It looks like a model for a space base in some sort of ill-advised Disney Star Wars venture. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And again, we've got layers here. So that ties in with what Barry was talking about earlier, isn't it?
What's that?
Doesn't this tie in with your layered feature that you spoke about earlier?
Which feature is that?
Stromatolites, Barry.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Because there's also layers here.
I would like to, maybe you could send that to me, if you would. I'd like to look at it, look at the sol, and then see what other kind of features are around it as well.
Sure.
That is an interesting feature.
What's the scale of that thing?
Oh, those are small. I'd put them at about 1 centimeter each.
Weird.
Yeah, under an inch.
Little
Also
sliding saucers.
Dave, real quick, we're getting some comments about people not being able to see
Yeah, that's
John's presentation.
Ricardo said that.
I'm
I don't know.
I'm seeing it on my live stream here.
Yeah, same.
too. Sorry, guys. Not sure what's happening there.
Let me just remove it and have him reshare it.
Okay, John, go through. Guys, we're going to see if we can try to...
Right.
Yeah, I checked the live streams and it wasn't showing.
Okay. Shout out to the chat for hanging in there with us. Chat's rocking tonight. Have people from all around the world.
John, let's go back to...
Lots of
Ask
action.
him if I can see this now, Dave.
Oh, send it again. Send it again. Oh, I think I might have it. Boom. Can you guys see this, Ricardo?
Okay, give him a minute. John, go to the first slide there.
Okay.
Go to the blow up the coral one again. Sure.
It's just a browser with Restream. We can see the mouse move, but it's a static image in the background.
Yeah.
Weird.
Give it a minute there, Dave. Let the stream catch up. Jason and Oleg, does this look? What does it look like to you? Does this
For
look
me,
weird, or-
all of these are like much crazier than even the ones before on previous shows. Like, I don't know about the electric discharge theory in this case. Is it possible to create such a coral-looking things or not? But for me, it looks literally like some coral or any other kind of creature that was living on Mars. Dendritic one.
Yeah,
Cool.
if you put it side by side, I mean, it's going to look like coral. I do understand the electrical discharge theory with it being by itself. But as always, it's the side by sides, just like with berries, with the hexagonal layers there, you know, when he shows that side by side of Mars and Earth. It's just like when John shows me the side by side of, you know, his pyramids and then Teotihuacan before it was excavated here on Earth. It's very powerful, man.
Awesome. Can I see the screen now, Dave?
They're saying no.
No, they couldn't. I have it live and it just shows the panel. But
I
no
restarted
presentation.
my thing. Send it to me again, and we'll see if it works.
Well, dang. Sorry, viewers.
They want to take us down and not let people see this.
I did that last night on one of my shows without realizing it. I was looking at Google Earth and talking to the audience about it for 10 minutes before
How about now, you guys?
map wasn't up.
How about now? Are we good? Chat? We can see it.
Oh my.
Yeah, I got it pulled up on my phone, Dave. It's working.
It's
The
working.
men in black are sabotaging us. Oh man, come on.
It sounds like Jason says it's working, right?
Yeah, I'm watching on my YouTube.
Yeah,
It's
all right.
working, yeah.
It's good. It's
Okay,
good. It's good.
so
All
it's
right.
working now.
Continue.
Cool. Apologies for that,
Okay,
viewers.
great.
I don't know why I did that. Anyway, yeah, there's our comparison. Finger coral, lightning strike. Who knows? Okay, then the next one was the strange shell-like object. There's a close-up of it. And we compared it to a sea urchin for the sake of comparison. Not that it was one, but it's got the hole and those ridges along the edge, outer edge. And then there's smaller blueberries around it. But those would be very small. I'd put this thing that it photographed at what? 5 millimeters.
I think it's a few centimeters.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. The Marley hand lens imager, doesn't it have a very tight zoom on it?
I think this thing is right below the rover.
Yeah. Okay, so that was that one. And then we got to these strange layers with these funny sort of mushroom fungus type look to it. Okay, there's the close-up. So these round.
Are we seeing a different one?
No, it's still the same. No.
We're seeing this.
We're still looking at the coral stick.
Yeah, we're still looking at the coral thing. Something's going on here.
Yeah, I got some weird things going on.
Yeah, try it again. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on. We got a lot of stuff happening. We're live on 6 different channels, pushing the limits for Mars Disclosure Live.
I wonder why it's doing this.
I don't know, man. Here we're seeing the coral.
Okay. And now?
Coral.
Still.
Still.
Yeah. Jean, reshare it, but have the other image selected already.
Man, they're really throwing a wrench in it tonight.
Yeah.
Super odd.
Entire screen share.
Let's try that. We're seeing the coral. We're seeing you move it around.
Select a different.
There we go. Boom.
There we go.
Now it's working. All right. There's the blueberry thing.
Okay. Can they?
Yeah, it's switching now.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So we were looking at that strange shell, possible shell. And
but
then,
now the people are not seeing it, unfortunately.
They're not?
Okay.
Dang. Maybe we just call it a day here. And,
yeah. We got other podcasts coming up.
Yeah, sorry, guys. John, we'll try to do a quick recap of this next time.
Can we get some questions potentially for Barry before we go? If the chat has any, or if any of the panel does. Let's do that. Oleg, do you got any questions for Barry?
Yeah, I already had, I think. But I think that with the ones that John was showing us, I think there may be some connection between this microbial life remnants and these other stuff, because these are also like remnants of the possible remnants of corals or of these, I don't know, fungal thing, whatever it was. So maybe in the future there will be some connection with that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely seeing connections. I missed about 20 minutes, so I apologize for that. Anybody in the chat have any questions or comments for Barry? Jean's trying to share something right now.
Yeah, see if that one pulls through.
Does
This
that
will be
work?
the last one.
Oh my gosh.
I'm waiting for the YouTube to like catch up.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'd love for the people to see this one as well.
Yes, they see it.
Yeah, all right. Go
Okay.
ahead.
What are these strange round things that look like mushrooms? And some of them are on these extended parts that are protruding out the side of this funny material. I don't know what it is. But you can see where my mouse is moving. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, they can see it.
Yeah, it's on the edge of this protruding part.
It definitely has a fungi looking appearance. Fungi.
Yeah, these are totally different to the blueberries. The one at the bottom of the screen where my mouse is moving as well is also above the surface because it's casting its shadow underneath it.
Getting a question about Jason. What's your YouTube channel? Just want to.
That's why I popped it up here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. Is that okay? Stop sharing? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pleasure. At least
yeah,
I got
Shaman
some of
711.
it.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem. So I didn't see any questions that popped up for Barry in the chat, specifically anybody else in the panel. I just want to say thank you so much. It was a really pleasure to meet you, and pleasure to have you on the show talk about this. And I appreciate all the work you've done, you know, behind the scenes. It's very it's very motivating. So thank you so much. Jason?
I'm curious to know, Barry. First of all, my joke was I didn't get in earlier. That this was the most boring presentation so far because John Ward has already taught me that there were megalithic building people on this planet. So of course there were fossils. So no, thank you very much for your work and your presentation. But that does lead me to, I guess, my little closing question is where does this put you? You know, having what you believe before you obvious fossil recognition of microbial life, and if you don't like to say in public, that's fine. I understand everybody has jobs, but where does that put you with potentially what was Mars? Does this have a role to play in the human story? Should we be concerned with this, and if so, why? Where do you fall on that spectrum, sir?
Well, another aspect of the work that I've done for many years is the International Committee Against Mars Sample Return. And I think I don't even have to tell you what that's all about. It's about not bringing stuff back here to this planet that might, you know, change the biosphere into something that we can't live in. So, you know, the Chinese just announced that they're going to bring back the first Mars samples by 2031. They're going to launch in 2028, and they're going to bring it back, and that they're building what they say is the most stringent, tight, sealed laboratory that anyone has ever seen. It's going to be just like the one in Wuhan.
Oh my.
I'll leave you with that thought. How about that?
Absolutely.
Oh no.
That's why we should care, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sure the people in control will do the best thing because don't they always? I mean, isn't that what they're doing, guys, now? Is they're trying to take care of us and do the right thing? Yeah, that's what I can't say with a straight face. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't trust them at all to do that, Barry. I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Who's the gentleman that's on trial right now for all the COVID mishandling. I don't know.
Okay,
Ouchie.
time to wrap it up, guys.
Time to wrap.
George Howard was there.
Let's wrap it up. We can talk about this offline.
Hey, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. I think we got up to like 80-something watching live, which is pretty cool. People watching from all around the world, up late, early in the morning. We absolutely love it. We do this every 2 weeks. We'll see you again in another 2 weeks. Thank you very so much for stopping by. Everyone, lots of great comments about today's presentation. Any final words, Barry?
Live long and prosper.
Yeah. Can't think of anything better.
Thank
All
you.
right. And anyone else?
No, thank you.